Jason Lee is back in the media cycle. Last time it was him and Tiffany Haddish and that mystery baby. This time he's being investigated for allegedly misappropriating funds. Let's get into it.
Jason Lee is under fire right now. Stockton Vice Mayor Jason Lee is allegedly being accused of stealing $50,000 in city funds to cover a Wild and Out event he was featured in.
What if your favorite celebrity blogger wasn't just spilling tea from the sidelines, but was now running your city? And what if one bold move cost taxpayers $50,000?
Meanwhile, tonight, Stockton Vice Mayor Jason Lee is speaking out. It comes in response to a controversy over city funds being used for a recent Wild and Out show.
He says everything was handled properly and in line with city policies. But as ABC 10's Austin Castro reports, the state attorney general may soon get involved in the investigation.
When I saw the weaponization of Wild and Out in the press, I was extremely concerned. But it didn't shock me because the politically motivated attacks that have been happening over the last 6 months since this interim city manager has been here has been extremely concerning.
Stockton Vice Mayor Jason Lee on Wednesday defending he did nothing wrong and was not involved in the decision to use city money to save a comedy show, Wild and Out, at Adventist Health Arena, a show that Lee helped bring to Stockton and he also performed in. In emails obtained by ABC 10, arena officials warned city staff members that promoters of the show were considering canceling the May event because of low ticket sales a day before the show was set to happen. That's when someone at City Hall made the decision to use $50,000 from the city's risk mitigation fund to save the show. Lee says he was not involved in those conversations and everything was done according to current city policies.
Says the request should have gone to the city manager. It doesn't say the policy requires it to go to the city manager.
This week, Stockton's interim city manager launched an internal investigation into the money spent on the event, but Lee, as well as council member Mario Enriquez, say they did nothing wrong and they want the Attorney General's office to step in and prove that.
This sudden controversy that came out of nowhere is nothing more than a distraction from the real scandal that's happening in the building behind me.
Lee is calling this investigation a conspiracy and pointed the finger back at interim city manager Steve Colangelo, accusing him of violating the Brown Act and retaliation.
I will be making a motion directing the city attorney to refer this matter to the California Attorney General's office because transparency is important, ethics is important.
In Stockton, Austin Castro, ABC 10.
All to save a show that he just so happened to be performing in. That's exactly what's happening right now in Stockton, California. And the man at the center of it all is none other than Jason Lee. And the deeper you dig into this story, the stranger it gets. Jason Lee, Hollywood Unlocked founder, reality TV personality, master of celebrity connections, now wears another title, Stockton Vice Mayor. But just months into his political career, the city is buzzing, and not in a good way. Back in May, a Wild and Out show was on life support. Ticket sales were tanking, cancellation was looming, and Stockton couldn't afford another PR disaster. Then, out of nowhere, $50,000 from the city's risk mitigation fund was approved to save it. Guess who was in the show? Yep, Jason Lee. But here's where the paper trail starts raising some very uncomfortable questions. Emails leaked to the press paint a chaotic picture inside Stockton's City Hall. Subject lines in all caps, urgent messages flying back and forth. The promoters for Wild and Out weren't just nervous, they were on the verge of pulling the plug completely. Ticket sales were flat, refunds would have been a nightmare, and the embarrassment, unthinkable. Then, almost like a scene out of a political drama, the city's economic development director steps in. In a single decision, $50,000 is pulled from Stockton's risk mitigation fund, a budget usually reserved for emergencies, not entertainment bailouts. The official line: protecting the city's reputation and stimulating the local economy. Now here's where the story twists. That kind of withdrawal? Normally, it runs straight through the city manager's office for review and approval. This time, it didn't. No signature, no green light from the top. Just fast-tracked cash straight to the show's rescue fund. And that missing step? That's not a small oversight. In politics, bypassing the chain of command isn't just bending the rules. It's the kind of move that gets people whispering about who made the call and why they were in such a rush. It didn't take long for Stockton's interim city manager to start connecting dots. A $50,000 withdrawal from an emergency fund, no sign-off from the city manager's desk, and a beneficiary who just happens to be the vice mayor and a performer in the event? That's the kind of cocktail that raises more than just eyebrows. Behind closed doors, an internal investigation was launched. The kind where people start lawyering up before the first round of questions. Documents are being pulled, timelines reconstructed, and every email is suddenly fair game. And here's where things get even more intense. Legal insiders are quietly saying the California Attorney General's office may be preparing to take a look. If that happens, this wouldn't just be a city hall squabble. It would turn into a state-level probe. Most politicians, faced with that kind of heat, would go silent, duck the cameras, and wait for their lawyers to handle the talking. But Jason Lee, he takes the story in a direction no one saw coming. Jason Lee isn't hiding behind press releases or carefully worded statements. No, he's walking straight into the storm. He called the cameras himself, stood in front of a wall of microphones, and locked eyes with reporters like a man ready for a fight. With the city buzzing and speculation swirling, he didn't flinch. No handlers whispering in his ear, no carefully staged backdrop. Just Jason, in real time, going on the offensive. His voice steady, his words sharp, and his message crystal clear. He's not backing down. And if you thought the headlines were explosive before, what he says next turns this from a local controversy into a full-blown political spectacle. Jason Lee stands firm. He swears he didn't pocket a single cent. To him, this is nothing but politics at its dirtiest. A targeted smear campaign. He calls it a witch hunt, a headline-hungry attack meant to tear him down. But here's the problem. In the court of public opinion, facts aren't the only thing that matter. Optics are. And when the vice mayor of a struggling city steps on stage at a show funded by taxpayer money, it doesn't matter how clean the receipts are. The image alone is enough to fuel suspicion. Every photo, every connection, every late-night meeting suddenly takes on a different weight. And in politics, once people start asking, what else don't we know? The answers rarely make things quieter. Behind the scenes, there's a split in the narrative. Supporters argue that Jason's industry clout is the only reason Wild 'N Out even considered Stockton. That without him pulling strings, the city wouldn't have landed a national tour stop in a million years. In their eyes, that $50,000 wasn't a bailout. It was an investment. But critics see it differently. They say that's exactly the problem. When one person is both the face on the marquee and a key decision-maker in City Hall, every handshake, every favor, every budget approval becomes a conflict waiting to happen. Whose interests get priority? The city's or the spotlight's? And here's the part that keeps people talking. If this was just the first act of Jason Lee's political career, what kind of drama is waiting in the encore? Because in politics, the follow-up performance can make or break the entire show. So here's where it all lands. Was this a visionary play to put Stockton back on the map, or a $50,000 flex to keep the spotlight right where Jason Lee wanted it? Because when Hollywood walks through the doors of City Hall, the script can flip fast. One day, it's the story of a hometown hero bringing big-time entertainment to a small city. The next, it's whispers of backroom deals, blurred lines, and questions no one wants to answer on the record. And right now, nobody knows whether we're watching the triumphant start of Jason Lee's political legacy or the cold open to a scandal that's about to explode. Tell me where you land in the comments. Because this show, it's nowhere near its final act.